The greatest prison is not made of iron bars. It's made of the thoughts we never question. And most people, they're serving a life sentence in a mindset they didn't even choose. You see, wealth isn't just a matter of bank accounts and business deals. It's a matter of beliefs, habits, and vision. A millionaire mindset is not something you're born with. It's something you build. And I'm here to tell you today, you can build it. Brick by brick, thought by thought, action by action. The real question isn't, can I become successful? The real question is, can I become the kind of person success is drawn to? Let's explore 3 powerful methods that can transform your mind and, by extension, your entire life. I used to believe, like so many others, that success was something you ran after like a bus you had to catch before it pulled away. But I learned often the hard way that the more you chase success, the more it eludes you. It's not something out there, just beyond your reach. No, success is something you become. The question isn't, how do I find success? The question is, what kind of person must I become to deserve it? Years ago, I was broke. Not just financially, but mentally. I wanted better, but I wasn't better. I had ambition, but I lacked direction. And then one day it struck me I didn't need to chase bigger paychecks. I needed to become the kind of man who earned them. You see, your level of success will never exceed your level of personal development. Never. There was a young man I once mentored, full of energy, always chasing leads, always chasing the next opportunity. But every month, he was just scraping by. One afternoon, I asked him, "What are you doing to become more valuable?" He looked at me confused. So I told him this, asterisk, don't just sell, study human behavior. Learn communication. Read about influence. Dress sharp. Become someone worth following. Asterisk. And when he started to grow himself, instead of chasing everything that moved, something amazing happened. Opportunities started chasing him. People are always trying to do more, get more, earn more. But here's the truth. You don't get more until you become more. The law of the universe is very simple. You attract what you are, not what you want. I often say, if you want to have more, you must become more. Because success is not a destination. It's a reflection. A reflection of your habits, your thinking, your philosophy, and your actions. When you shift your focus from chasing to becoming, success begins to arrive, uninvited, but fully earned. I used to think the secret to wealth was buried in some strategy, some method I hadn't yet discovered. But the longer I lived, the more I realized the greatest strategy in the world is worthless if the mind behind it is weak, distracted, or misdirected. Asterisk. Asterisk. Your mind is the gateway. Everything flows from it. And if you don't guard it, train it, and aim it in the right direction, you'll find yourself working hard but ending up nowhere. When I was in my 20s, I worked hard, I really did. Long days, longer nights, trying to make ends meet. But I wasn't growing. I wasn't building. You know why? Because I was letting the wrong ideas live in my head rent-free. Ideas like I'll never get ahead, or success is only for the lucky. I heard them from others, sure. But eventually, I started saying them to myself. And that's when they took root. You see, the mind is like a garden. If you don't plant flowers, weeds will grow. And those weeds of doubt, fear, laziness, scarcity, they don't need much encouragement. Just neglect. That's all it takes. So I started doing something very simple. Every day, I began to feed my mind on purpose. Books that stretched me. Lectures that challenged me. Quiet time to think, not scroll, not react. Think. And it was like a fog began to lift. There was a gentleman I once worked with who struggled financially for years despite having talent. When I asked him how he started his day, he told me he opened his phone and scrolled through news and complaints. I said, that's like opening your front door in the morning and inviting chaos in for coffee. We changed his morning routine, reading 15 minutes from a good book, reviewing his goals, speaking a word of gratitude, and within 6 months, he'd not only changed his income, but more importantly, he'd changed his outlook. The mind, when directed by discipline and fueled by wisdom, becomes the steering wheel of your destiny. And when you guide it, instead of letting it drift, it knows exactly where to take you. When I finally understood that my beliefs were shaping my life more than my effort, it hit me like a freight train. I realized I wasn't just living by choices. I was living by scripts. Scripts I didn't write, but I was following them like they were gospel. And most of them, they were small, safe, and soaked in limitation. You see, beliefs are like operating software. They run in the background, often unnoticed, but they control everything. Your decisions, your expectations, your actions, and ultimately, your results. I remember one that held me back for years. Money is hard to come by. I'd heard it growing up, repeated so often it felt like truth. And every time an opportunity came my way, that belief whispered, asterisk, this is too good to be true. Asterisk. So I'd back away. Not because the opportunity wasn't real, but because I didn't believe I belonged in that picture. My belief system had drawn a box around my life, and I never questioned it. And that's the first step, isn't it? Awareness. Asterisk. Asterisk. You have to stop and ask, where did this belief come from? Who taught me this? Is it true or just familiar? Because what's familiar isn't always right, and what's true won't always feel comfortable at first. A young man once told me he couldn't charge more for his services because he believed people wouldn't pay. I said, do you believe your work is worth more? He nodded. I told him, then stop selling your services. Start selling your belief in them. Within weeks, he raised his rates. He didn't change his skills. He changed his script. Reprogramming starts with awareness, but it doesn't end there. You must replace the old beliefs with new ones. Tell yourself, asterisk, wealth is created through value. Opportunities are abundant. I am capable of more than I've been told. Asterisk, see it. See it. Act like it's already true. And then let your behavior reinforce it. Because if your belief says you're small, you'll shrink to fit it. But if your belief says you were made to build, grow, and lead, you'll rise to meet that expectation. There was a time when I had dreams so big they could barely fit in my journal. I had vision, ambition, plans, but my reality, well, that looked very different. I was always falling behind, starting strong, and quitting quietly. And I finally learned the painful truth. Dreams without discipline are just fantasies with deadlines. Asterisk, asterisk. Discipline is the bridge, the only bridge between what you want and what you actually experience. Discipline means doing what needs to be done when it needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. Feelings are wonderful passengers, but terrible drivers. If you let your emotions drive your life, you'll veer off course every time the road gets bumpy. But discipline, it's the quiet force that keeps the wheels moving, even on the hardest days. I used to wake up late, scramble through my mornings, and wonder why the rest of the day felt off balance. Then I changed one habit. I started planning my day the night before. I wrote down my top priorities, scheduled my work, and committed to getting up early. It was hard at first. The bed was warm, the excuses were clever, but I stayed with it. And eventually, the discipline turned into rhythm, and the rhythm turned into results. There's a phrase I live by, asterisk. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Asterisk. Not once a month, not when it's convenient, every day. Want to change your finances? Discipline your spending. Want to improve your health? Discipline your eating and exercise. Want to grow your business? Discipline your time and effort. The formula doesn't change. You do. I once knew a man who made $100,000 a year but lived paycheck to paycheck. Why? No financial discipline. Another made $40,000, but saved and invested like a man on a mission. 5 years later, the difference wasn't in their income. It was in their habits. Because discipline, my friend, is not punishment, it's preparation. It doesn't restrict you, it releases you. It's the muscle that holds up the weight of your dreams and the bridge that carries you from intention to achievement. One of the most underestimated forces shaping your life isn't what's in your heart or even in your mind, it's what's around you, your environment. And I'm not just talking about the weather or the walls. I'm talking about the people you spend time with, the voices you listen to, the ideas you absorb daily. Your environment is either fuel that lifts you or poison that limits you, and you have to choose. Asterisk. Asterisk. I remember in my early years, I spent a lot of time with folks who were always broke, not just in their wallets, but in their thinking. They'd say things like, "That's just how life is," or "People like us don't get ahead." And I didn't realize it at first, but their words were slowly becoming my beliefs. Every time I tried to stretch a little, take a risk, grow, that echo of limitation would ring in my ears. Not because they were bad people, they were just trapped. And they were pulling me into the same small cage without even knowing it. There's one thing we all get in equal measure, whether we're rich or poor, young or old, and that's time. But what separates the successful from the struggling is how they spend it. Time, my friend, is non-refundable. Once it's gone, it's gone. You don't get a receipt, and you can't ask for an exchange. And if you truly want to develop a millionaire mindset, you have to treat your time like the rarest currency on earth, because it is. I used to waste time like I had a lifetime in reserve. Mornings gone in distraction, evenings spent in idle company, and weekends with no aim. I'd say asterisk. I'll get serious soon. Asterisk. But the problem is, soon doesn't show up on the calendar, only today does. And every day I delayed was a day I donated to failure. It wasn't until I started studying the habits of successful people that I noticed something. They accounted for their time like a banker counts money. They asked, "Is this moving me closer to my goal?" If the answer was no, they didn't do it. Not out of coldness, but out of clarity. I once mentored a gentleman who kept saying, asterisk, "I just don't have enough time." Asterisk. I had him track every hour for a week. You know what we found? He was losing 4 hours a day to meaningless scrolling, gossip, and interruptions. That's 28 hours a week, a full-time job wasted on distractions. I told him, asterisk, you're not out of time. You're out of focus. Asterisk, he cleaned up his schedule like a man on a mission. And within 3 months, his income rose because his time was finally aligned with his priorities. Spending time like a millionaire doesn't mean filling every minute with hustle. It means investing in high-return activities, learning, planning, building relationships, creating, resting with purpose. Because just like money, you can spend time, you can waste it, or you can invest it, and only one of those pays dividends. So treat your time as the treasure it is. Guard it, guide it, and give it only to what matters most. So now the question is an asterisk. Can you develop a millionaire mindset? Asterisk. The question is asterisk. Will you? Asterisk. Because everything you need is already within reach, not in someone else's hands, not in some distant future, right here, right now, right now. The thoughts you think, the habits you build, the beliefs you choose to carry, these are the tools that shape your destiny. Remember, you don't chase success. You become it. You reprogram the beliefs that keep you small. You train your mind like the powerful engine it is. You guard your time, your environment, your emotions, because they are the soil in which your future grows. And here's the beautiful part. This mindset doesn't cost money. It costs decision. It costs commitment. So I invite you, don't let this just be another talk you heard and forgot. Let it be a turning point. Go home tonight and write down what you're going to do differently. Identify one belief you'll replace, one habit you'll begin, one action you'll take this week. Because the journey to wealth starts with one choice. To become the kind of person success is looking for. Asterisk. Asterisk. Now go do the work. Your future is waiting.